Welcome, brave ones. On this channel, we don't just watch horror animation. We peel back each story to expose the rot beneath, share perspectives, and connect through the darkness. Tonight, we're diving into the dark side of modern dating, where one swipe can lead to love or your last meal. In a world built on profiles and filters, desire moves faster than trust. She thought she was meeting a charming stranger, a man who could cook, who knew how to make her feel seen again. But what started as a Tinder match turned into a nightmare, served on a silver plate. Because behind every perfect photo, there's a hunger, and sometimes it's not just for love. This isn't just a horror story about a man with a twisted appetite. It's a warning about the monsters we invite into our lives with a single tap. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because on this channel, the more you watch, the darker it gets. That's the nightmare behind this episode. The story of a Tinder date that started with a smile and ended with a scream. Now, let us dig in.
I never believed in lasting love. At least, not for me. I believed in momentum, in sparks that ignited fast and burned out just as quickly. Apps like Tinder, they weren't for finding a soulmate. They were playgrounds for pleasure, fleeting and fun. A swipe here, a drink there, a night of passion. No promises, no disappointments. That night I wasn't even looking. I was bored, curious, restless. Then came Mark. He wasn't just attractive, he was curated. Tousled hair, well-cut jawline, eyes that looked like they saw through filters. His bio was maddeningly simple. I cook well. I never rush a meal. And yet it hit something. It felt mature, confident, real. We matched instantly. His first message.
Dinner tonight?
I replied, where and when? By 9:43 p.m, I was on my way to his house outside the city. Mark's place was more than a house. It was a villa, hidden behind high hedges, sleek, modern, and warm with soft lighting. When I stepped inside, the smell of rosemary and smoked meat embraced me. He greeted me in a crisp shirt, sleeves rolled.
Welcome. I hope you're hungry.
A long table waited, adorned with wine, candles, and a small tray of homemade pâté. You made this? I thought he was being dramatic, artsy, maybe a little eccentric. He explained how the pâté was made, from how the liver must be handled to the chilling process. I laughed. He was intense, passionate, but charming. We drank red wine, talked, flirted. After the dinner, Mark showed me his kitchen, meticulously arranged, all top-tier chef equipment, each blade gleaming. Mark was obsessed with knives, artisan blades, carbon steel, perfectly honed. He showed me a custom paring knife from Japan, then whispered like a secret. He said, half joking, "You sound like Gordon Ramsay on a date."
More like Hannibal with manners.
I didn't catch the red flag. I was too busy drinking melting under his gaze. The heat between us grew. Touches lingered. His hands slid along my waist, then lips met lips, and we lost ourselves in the moment. As he trailed kisses along my neck, he whispered, almost breathless,
I'm still hungry, and you look delicious. Do you want to be my dinner tonight?
I giggled, aroused. Of course. I thought it was a kink, a game. Maybe he wanted to carry me to the kitchen table. Maybe he had whipped cream hidden somewhere. His lips pressed more firmly, but something shifted. His grip tightened, not seductive, but possessive. His breath grew shallow. Then I felt it, the unmistakable chill of cold metal, a sharp prick at the base of my skull. I tensed. Not playful, not sexy. He said flatly,
I mean it.
It took me a second to process, then two. His eyes were no longer warm. They were vacant, detached. "Mark, what are you doing?" His smile remained, but it no longer belonged to a man flirting. Before I could scream, he moved, swift, precise. Something jabbed of my neck, a sudden jolt like a taser. The pain wasn't deep, but it sent a paralyzing shockwave through my spine. My muscles seized, my vision blurred. I collapsed, limbs flailing uselessly, thoughts scattering like marbles across a floor I could no longer feel. Then darkness. I woke up strapped to a table in the center of the sleek, high-end kitchen. My body was numb, my arms and legs splayed and tied down with thick rope that scraped against my skin. The room wasn't cold like a morgue. It was warm, humid, and filled with a nauseating blend of aromas. Bleach, charred meat, fresh herbs, and something unmistakably metallic. To my left, a prep station gleamed with precision tools. Mandolins, mincers, boning knives. On the kitchen island sat a bowl of something marinating. Was it beef? Pork? My stomach twisted. I tried to scream, but my throat was sandpaper dry. My tongue stuck to the roof of my mouth. My limbs were bound tightly, thick leather straps cut into my skin, keeping me spread and helpless. Footsteps. Then Mark entered, donning a blood-smeared apron like a chef ready for his shift. There was a shimmer in his eyes. Not joy, not madness, but something twisted in between.
You're awake. Good. The first time should be memorable.
"What the hell is this?" I rasped, terror making my voice crack.
I always wondered what it would be like.
He said, almost dreamy.
After watching Hannibal, it just clicked. You're perfect. Fresh. Clean. Beautiful.
He approached with a paring knife, its edge honed to perfection.
Blood type A, right? They say it's the most flavorful.
He pressed the blade to my neck. A stinging slice. I screamed. He caught the blood, tasted it, then gagged, violently, his face contorted in horror. He stumbled to the sink and vomited, retching like a poisoned man. The knife clattered to the table. He was too busy heaving to notice that my eyes had locked onto the knife on the floor. My wrist twisted painfully toward it. Awkward, strained, the cold steel kissed the edge of the rope binding my wrist. I began to saw. Once. Twice. The blade bit into the coarse fiber and grazed my skin. Pain flared hot and raw, but I didn't stop. Mark groaned again, spitting bile into the sink, muttering something about preparation and balance of flavor. The rope snapped with a frayed gasp. I yanked my wrist free, the skin beneath it raw and bleeding, my pulse pounding in my ears like war drums. I moved quickly to my ankles. The knots were tight, stubborn, soaked with my own sweat. My fingers slipped once, twice, but I didn't stop. I clawed and sawed and twisted until at last, the final rope loosened and I kicked free. He turned.
No, not yet.
I snatched the knife, stumbled to my feet and lunged, not at him, but at the sleek wall oven beside me. The blade drove deep. Glass shattered. Gas hissed like a snake let loose. Flames erupted in an instant, racing across the countertop. He screamed, not for me, but for the oven.
No! That's a $6,000 Viking!
I toppled a prep table into his path, the clang loud as a gunshot, then sprinted into the smoke-choked hallway without looking back. I grabbed my phone from a table near the entryway. 1% battery. 911, please help. But Mark's voice echoed from behind.
You can't leave. You're not done yet.
I bolted for the front door, flung it open, only to find the outer gate locked. No keypad, no handle. I darted into the bushes, phone in hand. I crouched, heart in my mouth. Tinder notifications pinged in quick succession.
You can't escape me! I told you, this is my first time.
I muted my phone, uninstalled the app, but another message arrived through Premium Override.
I fixed the oven. Sorry for being clumsy. Let's finish what we started. The first time is always messy.
A sound, footsteps, bars of electricity, then a voice inches from the brush.
And honey, I brought a cleaner blade this time.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are immersing ourselves in a really chilling narrative. A story that feels less like fiction, honestly, and more like a modern cautionary tale. It's quite a descent into psychological horror that starts, maybe inevitably these days, with a single right swipe. Our mission today is pretty straightforward. We want to unpack the anatomy of this terror. This story sits right at that, complex intersection of modern dating, curated digital perfection, and this really profound hidden obsession. We're basically tracking how quickly a search for just a fleeting connection, maybe a spark, can escalate into a literal desperate fight for survival.
And what makes this particular story so effective, I think, at creating that dread is its reliance on extreme familiarity. It really exploits the elements we kind of strive for or see in modern life: the perfect profile, the amazing high-end kitchen, the confidence you get from an immediate invitation, and it twists those symbols of status, of desirability, into the very tools of entrapment. We really need to look closely at the meticulous details the storyteller uses here to turn what seems like a simple dinner date into a pure survival nightmare.
Okay, so let's start with the setup, focusing on the protagonist, Aaron. The story makes it clear she's savvy, right? She's not naive, but she's also looking for maybe easy gratification. She sees apps like Tinder not really as a quest for romance, but more like, the story calls them playgrounds for pleasure. She's seeking connections that ignited fast and burned out just as quickly. She wants momentum, and that desire for speed leaves her defenses a bit down.
Exactly. Her willingness to maybe bypass the usual vetting process is precisely what makes her the ideal target for Mark, the antagonist. He's presented as this perfectly distilled version of digital appeal, curated, perfectly lit, with a well-cut jawline, and eyes that seemed, the story says, to bypass screen filters entirely. He's like the fantasy of control and sophistication made real.
And the real hook, it seems, wasn't just the photo, it was the bio. The story calls it maddeningly simple. It just read, "I cook well, I never rush a meal." Now, why does that seemingly harmless phrase land so powerfully?
Well, promises maturity, doesn't it? Patience, confidence, qualities that really stand out in that kind of high-speed, low-effort dating environment. It suggests control. And the proof is really the speed of it all. They match instantly. His first message isn't some long chat, it's just dinner tonight. That command structure, that sort of implication that he's above the usual digital game playing, that can be incredibly attractive if you're looking for something brief and intense.
Right. And the environment is clearly designed to reinforce this polished image.
Yeah.
She drives out to his villa. It's hidden behind high hedges.
Yeah.
The initial smell when she walks in rosemary and smoked meat, it's welcoming, it's domestic, it's luxurious. It feels like the perfect scene is set.
The atmosphere is deliberately flawless. Wine, candles, and then there's the homemade pâté. But this is where the story plants its first real kind of psychological detail, I think. Mark gives this intensely detailed, almost clinical explanation of how the pâté was made, handling the liver, the chilling process. And she dismisses it. She just thinks he's being dramatic, artsy, maybe a little eccentric. Big mistake, obviously.
Wait, why is that pâté detail so significant here? Does it tell us something specific about his control beyond just being a good cook?
Oh, absolutely. It shows us that for Mark, food isn't just nourishment or pleasure, it's a ritual. The meticulousness he applies to the pâté signals that he views the preparation, the process, as paramount. He isn't just making dinner, he's conducting an operation, essentially. It's the first real hint that his obsession is aesthetic and controlling, which is exactly the personality type that seeks to, well, consume its targets whole.
Okay, so moving from that aesthetic purity, we have to look at the next thing he obsessed over, his actual tools. Mark's kitchen, the setting for the date, it becomes a character in itself, really. This wasn't some standard functional cooking space.
Yeah.
The story emphasizes the meticulous arrangement, the top-tier chef equipment, and his passion for artisan blades, these custom Japanese paring knives. Everything had to be perfect. He couldn't stand a scratch on them.
Yes, and this obsession with flawless, precise equipment is critical. It links his aesthetic pathology directly to violence. He's not invested in the result necessarily, but in the perfection of the means. He needs the best tools because he sees himself as the best. And this self-image is deeply rooted in his ability to mimic the dark sophistication of his idol.
And that idol is revealed right at the moment of transition, isn't it? The protagonist makes a casual joke about him sounding like Gordon Ramsay.
Right. And Mark's response, the line that absolutely should have sent her running instantly, was, "More like Hannibal with manners." Now, this isn't just a flippant comment. It establishes the source of his pathology: media consumption, fan culture. But what's fascinating is how Erin interprets this. She sees it through the lens of flirting, maybe sexual aggression. She's so wrapped up in maybe a bad boy fantasy that she completely misses the literal terrifying warning he just gave her.
I mean, how does anyone miss that red flag, it sounds like?
Yeah.
Like willful blindness, almost. Assuming any dark statement is just part of the game.
Well, it's the trap of modern dating expectations, perhaps. She assumes the threat is a performance of dominance, maybe a kink, not an actual statement of intent. And that assumption lasts right until the very last breath of the date, really. They shift from flirting to that horrifying proposition. Mark whispers, "I'm still hungry, and you look delicious. Do you want to be my dinner tonight?"
And she still assumes it's a kink, a game, maybe involving handcuffs and whipped cream or something.
But the game stops instantly. His grip tightens possessively. His eyes become vacant, detached. She realizes the whole seductive performance is just over. And then she feels it. The unmistakable chill of cold metal, followed by a paralyzing jolt, like a sharp prick at the base of her skull, some kind of chemical or electrical thing seizing her muscles, stealing her ability to fight back.
The speed and the clinical precision of the capture are terrifying. He doesn't struggle, he just administers. He moves from charming host to clinical preparer in the space of a heartbeat. It confirms that the charming veneer was just a mask, right? Just functional for the methodical process underneath. So she wakes up, and the kitchen is no longer this sleek, welcoming place. It's become a terrifying operating theater. She's strapped to a table, surrounded by the very objects he previously show off as status symbols: mandolins, mincers, boning knives. The air is described as this sickening mix: bleach, charred meat, fresh herbs, and something unmistakably metallic.
And Mark enters, now fully embodying his dark ideal. He's wearing a blood-smeared apron, and he confirms his motive. He actually admits that watching Hannibal made it just clicked for him. He calls her perfect, fresh, clean, beautiful. Not a person anymore, but the perfect raw ingredient. This just reinforces the idea that he's a fanboy, obsessed with mirroring a fictional persona rather than having some deep organic pathology of his own.
The story then delivers probably the most disturbing element, the taste test. He approaches her with that paring knife, notes her blood type is A, which he claims is the most flavorful. He presses the blade to her neck, takes a stinging slice of blood, and then he tastes it.
And here is the absolute pivotal moment, the critical failure that saves her life. He is a fanatic, yes, but crucially, he is an amateur. When he tastes the raw, unprepared ingredient, the actual blood of a living human, he immediately gags violently. He stumbles to the sink, starts vomiting, muttering about the lack of preparation and balance of flavor.
What does that reveal about him? It sounds less like a failure of nerve and more like a failure of gastronomy.
It's the most profound psychological insight into Mark, I think. He's not a monster driven by some visceral hunger or true sociopathy. He's driven by aesthetic purity. His devotion to the gourmet ideal, the idea of the perfectly prepared meal, is actually stronger than his murderous intent. He's repulsed because the raw ingredient is messy, it's unbalanced, it's unprepared. His obsession with being the perfect chef literally overrides his desire to be a successful killer. He's a consumer of the aesthetic, not a master of the actual messy craft. His whole fanboy fantasy just dissolves in the reality of, well, human viscera.
The knife clatters to the floor as he's gagging, and that is her moment of clarity. She realizes Mark is just this clumsy, dramatic fanboy, and that realization gives her the will to fight back.
And the escape is immediate and brutal. She uses the fallen knife, sawing through the rope on her wrist, enduring the pain. She frees her ankles, then turns the table, lunging not at him, but at the symbol of his pride.
The oven.
Exactly. The sleek, modern wall oven. She shatters the glass, gas starts hissing, flames erupt.
And his reaction, that moment, tells you everything you need to know about his true priorities, doesn't it? He doesn't scream about his escaping victim or the fire or the risk to his own life.
No, he screams, no, that's a $6,000 Viking. It's the ultimate confirmation of his pathology. The tools, the equipment, the aesthetic perfection, that is what is truly precious to him. Human life, even his own physical safety, it's secondary to the integrity of his performance space. The tools are more important than the meal itself. She flees into the smoke-choked hallway while he's literally mourning his appliance.
So she gets out of the kitchen, grabs her phone, it's got 1% battery left, and manages to call 911 while trying to figure out how to escape the locked outer gate. Mark's voice echoes after her through the smoke. You can't leave. You're not done yet. Chilling.
And this is where the story shifts, I think, from just a horror survival tale to something more like a lasting modern nightmare. She reports the crime, but the police find absolutely zero evidence. Nothing. Everything. The blood, the tools, any implied bodies, maybe in a freezer, it's all vanished without a trace. This suggests a terrifying level of efficiency in the cleanup, maybe premeditation involving an accomplice, or just Mark's frantic commitment to restoring the aesthetic perfection of his crime scene. She's left haunted, doubting her own memory against the stark reality of a completely empty villa.
That lack of closure is devastating. A week later, she's trying to cope, deleting the app, obviously. Then a new Tinder notification pings. It's delivered via premium override, which is an invasive detail in itself. The photo shows a different face, but same eyes vibe. He's just reinvented his profile, moved on seamlessly.
And the final message seals the horror. It confirms his self-evaluation, really. It's framed as an apology, but it's also this chilling promise of, like, professional development. It says, I fixed the oven, sorry for being clumsy, let's finish what we started. The first time is always messy. Honey, I brought a cleaner blade this time.
He's learned his lesson.
Yeah.
Not to stop killing, but to improve his technique, his preparation.
Wow. This story hits on a much deeper, more pervasive terror than just your standard slasher narrative, I feel. It's really about the ease with which curated perfection, that flawless, desirable dating profile, can mask absolute, and in this case, learning depravity. He used that digital desire for a fleeting, high-quality connection to efficiently find and, well, prep his victim.
Absolutely. The narrative plays directly on that modern anxiety of anonymity, doesn't it? The very elements we might seek out, the sophistication, the high-end experience, become the instruments of destruction. He was selling a fantasy, and Erin was buying the aesthetic, failing to realize the tools of that aesthetic, the knives and the expensive kitchen, were literally going to be used on her. So this entire terrible sequence started because Mark was obsessed with mirroring a fictional character, Hannibal Lecter. And he failed only because of, essentially, a gourmet's fastidiousness, his squeamishness about the taste. So here's the thought to leave you with. If Mark had been a perfect, experienced killer, and not this clumsy fanboy whose delicate sensibilities were offended by unprepared blood, would the protagonist have even survived long enough to realize the true nature of the date? That commitment to self-improvement, not in ethics but in murder, is maybe the most terrifying takeaway for you to mull over.
In the end, she survived Enos, but survival isn't the same as escape. The scars she carries aren't on her skin, but in the way she now looks at people, seeing hunger where there used to be warmth, predators behind every smile. Because the truth is, we all play this dangerous game, swiping, matching, pretending to connect. We trade our loneliness for attention, our fear for a moment of feeling wanted, and maybe that's the most terrifying part. The monster wasn't just Mark, it's in all of us, the part that would rather be devoured than be alone.